Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees. Tonight's top story. Conservative MP Sir David Amess has died after being stabbed multiple times. The attack happened during a meeting with constituents at a church in Leigh-on-Sea. A 25-year-old man has been arrested. Also tonight, the government proposes rule changes for EU hauliers to help solve the lorry driver shortage.
That's the equivalent of adding thousands of extra lorry drivers to the road, but we don't have to do anything with visas in order to do this.
And Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping reportedly won't be travelling to the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. China emits more greenhouse gases than all developed countries combined. Conservative MP Sir David Amess has died after being stabbed multiple times during a meeting with constituents at Belfairs Methodist Church in Essex. Sir David represented Southend West for many years and was previously the MP for Basildon. NTD's Jane Well brings us more.
Conservative MP Sir David Amess was stabbed multiple times at around midday today. Medics tried to save him where he was stabbed in a church in Essex where he was meeting constituents, but he died. The 69-year-old leaves behind his wife and 5 children, and he served as an MP for 38 years. Essex police say a 25-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder, and they've recovered a knife on the scene. They're not looking for anyone else connected with the incident. Sir David was killed in Leigh-on-Sea, a small seaside village in Essex, where he was meeting constituents. The attack has come not just as a shock for the local community, but also for the Parliament, bringing memories of the murder of Joe Cox, a Labour MP, in 2016. Tributes have been pouring in from MPs, including from the Prime Minister.
David was a man who believed passionately in this country and in its future. And we've lost today a fine public servant and a much-loved friend and colleague. And our thoughts are very much today with his wife, his children and his family.
Flags at Downing Street have been lowered at half-mast as a sign of respect. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.
The government is planning to increase deliveries across the country by changing the rules around trading rights. Lorry drivers from the EU would be allowed to do unlimited pickups and drops in a 2-week period without needing a visa. The new measure aims to prevent shops running out of goods or putting prices up. This report comes from NTD's Eddie Aiken.
Transport Secretary Grant Shapps launches a consultation to extend cabotage rights to foreign companies. Currently, EU drivers can only make 2 trips in the UK per week. The government plans to increase deliveries across the country by changing this.
Cabotage means that within a 2-week period, they'll be able to make unlimited number of pickups and drops. That's the equivalent of adding thousands of extra lorry drivers to the road, but we don't have to do anything with visas in order to do this. It's a straightforward measure.
The Transport Secretary says the government has taken 24 measures to solve the driver shortage, and the number of people wanting to become lorry drivers has increased threefold.
You will have noted that the queues at the petrol pumps have gone, that we've got more people applying to become lorry drivers.
The changes of cabotage rules needs to be approved. After a 1-week consultation, the government hopes the new measure will strengthen supply chains and prevent shops running out of goods or putting prices up. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
And labour shortages in the pork industry leave processing plants unable to keep up with supply. Some farmers have had to cull their excess backlog of pigs. The government announced on Thursday it will offer 6-month emergency visas for 800 butchers to help manage the problem. A fund will be set up in England to support meat processors to store slaughtered pigs for up to 6 months so they can be processed later. Other issues facing the pork industry have been the temporary suspension of export to China and the effects of the pandemic. The government says it wants the industry to improve working conditions in the UK and invest in technology to meet its labour needs. In other news, world leaders will meet in Scotland next month for the biggest climate change conference since the Paris Agreement in 2015. China is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. But in a blow to the ambitions of the summit, the Times newspaper reports the Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is set to miss it. Here's NTD's Jane Well with more.
Ambitious targets at the climate summit in Scotland next month include measures to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Amid concerns the UN summit, or COP26, won't be a success, the Times newspaper reports Chinese leader Xi Jinping isn't expected to attend in person. China emits more than 27% of greenhouse gases globally, surpassing all emissions of developed countries combined. World leaders attending the conference in Glasgow include American President Biden and the Australian Prime Minister, who confirmed his attendance earlier.
Overnight, I confirmed my attendance at the Glasgow summit, which I'm looking forward to attending. It's an important event. The government will be finalising its position for me to take to that summit prior to my departure over the next fortnight.
His announcement comes after Prince Charles expressed surprise in a BBC interview that Morrison might not be attending. The Queen will also be there, but it's reported that Russia's Vladimir Putin might not attend, and the Pope is expected to be absent. Countries attending the conference are expected to publish beforehand emission reduction targets to help meet the UN's net zero goal by 2050. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.
Every year, billions of tonnes of food are rejected by retailers and wasted at farms. The food is usually dumped in landfills, creating environmental problems. But a growing number of charities are tackling the supply chain to stop good food being thrown away and finding ways to get it to the needy. We hear from Fair Share, who says last year they saved 132 million meals from being wasted. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
Early every morning, Fair Share volunteers busily unpack groceries. They take unwanted food from retailers and farmers, sending it to charities that help the nation's poorest. Supermarkets reject farm produce if it's strangely shaped or wrongly packaged. The cheapest option is often sending it to landfill.
Now we have the capacity to take that food from the supermarkets. They don't really want to deal with many others in the sector. They haven't got time. They want to get it out to people as quickly as possible, and we're able to do that. It comes into warehouses like this. It's resorted and then put onto new pallets, as you'll see, and then sent out to those charities in need.
Fair Share says it redistributed 55 tonnes of food last year. That's 132 million meals. 25 centres in the UK supply over 10,000 charities. Thompson says 2 billion tonnes of food is wasted every year, mostly at farms. Fair Share can make redistributing the food cost-effective for the supplier.
We help them cover the costs through our surplus of purpose scheme to make sure that it's cost-effective for them to redistribute that food through us rather than to send it to landfill, to let it go to waste or rot in the ground.
One of the charities Fair Share works with is Brighton Food Bank, run by Mike Jourdain. Since the pandemic started, he has seen more people in need, but less food donations, particularly due to the churches not congregating.
We've seen a 38% increase this year post-COVID, so we've got great demand. So we're looking after about 120 people in a week. We're giving them 3 weeks of food, so this will be empty probably by tomorrow.
Fair Share has also seen difficulties, rising fuel costs and lack of lorry drivers, so they are trialling electric tricycles. Volunteers can pedal hundreds of kilos of food into congested areas. With the COP26 climate conference round the corner, Fair Share hopes the topic of food waste will be on the menu. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
A 20th anniversary exhibition of artwork created using coloured pencils opens in London. It's an increasingly popular medium among amateur artists and professionals alike. NTD's Neil Woodrow visited the exhibition.
A society of artists that use coloured pencils in their work are holding their 20th gala anniversary exhibition in London. It includes workshops to help fine-tune your artistic skills. The UK Coloured Pencil Society was formed 20 years ago by artists that shared a passion for the medium of coloured pencils. They now have more than 800 members from around the world.
This is the biggest exhibition we've ever done, so that feels really good as well.
400 pieces of pencil art drawing were entered to be shown in the exhibition this year, 2/3 of which will be displayed.
A lot of pencil artists are entering the competitions where they're up against oil painters and acrylic and watercolour, and they're winning awards, and people can't believe that it was done in pencil, which is just phenomenal, and I think it's that secret medium that's a bit mysterious, even though everybody did it as a child, but actually as a professional piece of work, it's a really mysterious thing. So we're trying to shine a light on what it can actually do, yeah.
Another artist and committee member talks about the method of pencil drawing.
Unlike watercolours and acrylics, you can lay down colours quite quickly. But with our pencil work, we're very limited just to actually the point of the pencil. And as you can see from the study here, it's quite painstaking work, and some people can spend many hours on their art.
All the exhibition artists were invited to attend the preview evening, and awards were presented for their work. Workshops take place each day, giving attendees an opportunity to get some personal guidance with their drawing technique. Beth discovered art during lockdown as something to do to while away the time and de-stress. She came to professional artist and art tutor Jonathan Newey's bird drawing workshop, hoping to pick up some tips on how she could improve.
I think I've found that birds are the thing that I'm drawn to, so that's why I picked this particular workshop. But I hadn't done a bird of prey before. But yeah, for me, it's about having the confidence to just do it and have a go. So I think that's what I'm getting from today, and seeing Jonathan do it, right, off you go, and then just, putting it down on paper and seeing how it comes out.
Jonathan was telling me that building up layers of colour and detail can take time. His A1 full-size pieces can take around 100 hours to complete. Some ranges of coloured pencils include up to 160 different colours. There is a shop at the exhibition where artists can purchase their supplies. Hundreds of pieces of detailed artwork depicting people, animals, botanicals and more line the walls of this gallery space, some of which are for sale. The exhibition is free to visit and is open daily until the end of next week. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
And Christmas is many children's favourite time. The UK's most famous toy shop, Hamleys, revealed its top 10 toys for this Christmas. The retailer says this year's selection is designed to get the whole family back together after last year's Christmas was effectively cancelled. NTD's Joanne Robson has the story.
Santa, elves and a grotto full of toys. Toy retailer Hamleys unveils its top 10 toys for Christmas 2021. In an event at its flagship central London store. Hamleys head of buying, Victoria Kay, says this year's Christmas is about getting family and friends back together.
There's a lot of role play involved, there's a lot of imagination involved in the toys that we've picked, and there is also some magical things in there as well, which is what it's all about, isn't it? And it's about trying to bring that magic of Christmas back.
Hamleys' top 10 picks include Hasbro Nerf blaster guns and remote-controlled Rally's Warrior 3-in-1 race cars. A magical cauldron is Kay's personal favourite.
It's literally a cauldron which kind of smokes and puffs out all this kind of air and fun and magic, and then lo and behold you get this lovely cute fluffy toy, but I don't want to spoil it because it's really fun. But it's the funnest thing that we've seen, yeah.
There are recent media reports of potential toy shortages due to delays at UK ports. Kay says Hamleys hasn't been affected and is well stocked for the festive season.
Christmas doesn't come as a surprise to us at Hamleys. We always know it comes, and it comes every year, and we knew this year was going to be bigger and better than ever before after we'd had last year. We have been planning for Christmas since March onwards, so we have been building our stocks all the way through the year from March.
The top 10 toys for this Christmas also include some traditional toys, like soft toys, an interactive globe, Lego and Playmobil toys. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Still to come, Alitalia is history. After 74 years in business, Italy's bankrupt national carrier finally folded. For many Italians, it's the end of an era. That and more after the break. Italy's bankrupt national airline Alitalia made its final flights on Thursday before folding. It's the end of business for the 74-year-old carrier and an end of an era for Italy. Alitalia has been in the red for more than a decade, and on Friday, new national airline ITA took over. We hear more from NTD's Joanne Robson.
Lots of emotion at Rome's Fiumicino airport after the last ever Alitalia flight landed on Thursday evening.
I can't speak. I feel as if my father died again. It hurts too much.
It's the end of an era for Italy's national carrier. Founded in 1946, Alitalia was once a symbol of Italian style and glamour. It used to be the traditional choice of popes, prima donnas and Italy's political elite.
After 34 years, leaving a company for which you have worked a lifetime, which is like a family, is difficult. I have a short time before retirement, but I think about the others who will remain in harsher conditions, and it's not nice.
Alitalia had only 1 year in the black this century. The government has run to its rescue many times, spending almost £7 billion in the last 3 years. The fallout from the pandemic sounded its death knell. Last year, Rome decided to create Italy Air Transport, or ITA, from its ashes.
We don't feel we have to celebrate any funeral because, in reality, the airline will continue to exist. The only discontinuity is about salaries and about the number of employees, and our job today is to try to get as many workers on board as possible.
The new carrier will start with about 50 jets and almost 3,000 employees, down from around 110 aircraft and a workforce of about 10,000 workers for Alitalia. Aviation expert John Strickland says the new airline must run without political interference to be a success.
It's really the only way forward to avoid having another repetition of state funding being put in and keeping the rump of a business alive, which in market terms would logically have failed by now.
In recent weeks, workers staged strikes and protests, and on Friday too. They denounced their treatment and what for many is just a final end for years of crises. Under a deal negotiated with the European Commission, there must be clear discontinuity between Alitalia and its successor, and the new carrier needs to be profitable by the end of 2025. But Alitalia's legacy of high costs, mismanagement and heavy political and union influence may be hard for ITA to shrug off. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
A pro-nuclear alliance led by France is pushing to have nuclear energy included in the EU's upcoming sustainable finance rules. The new so-called taxonomy ratings aims to steer private capital into what the EU deems green technologies. France and others have long pushed for nuclear to be included as a means of achieving the bloc's climate goals. The 10 countries say rising energy prices show the importance of cutting dependence on third countries as soon as possible. EU countries are divided over nuclear, which produces roughly a quarter of the EU's electricity. Supporters promote its low CO2 emissions, while opponents, such as Germany, raise concerns over the waste issue. The EU Commission is expected to make a decision in the coming months. Journalists that investigated the use of spyware known as Pegasus have won the top award at the European Union's Prize for Journalism. A group of 17 associations were involved in the investigation, led by Paris-based journalism group Forbidden Stories. British newspaper The Guardian was among those 17. Some governments use Pegasus, developed by an Israeli company, to hack the phones of journalists, human rights activists, and some leading political figures. NTD's Anna Rodriguez has the story.
A consortium of journalists behind the Pegasus project investigation has won this year's top European Union Journalism Prize. The project investigated spyware called Pegasus, developed by the Israel-based NSO group.
So we chose the investigation, coordinated by Forbidden Stories. Forbidden Stories is a network of journalists. Some of them are with us in the room today. And their mission is to publish the work of other journalists who are threatened, who are in prison, or who have been assassinated.
Forbidden Stories and the human rights group Amnesty International obtained a list of more than 50,000 phone numbers selected for surveillance by the customers of the NSO group. The consortium includes 80 reporters from organizations such as the Associated Press, Reuters, Le Monde, and The Guardian, among others.
80 people who believe in collaborative journalism, 80 people who believe in that way of reporting and telling the truth when democracies are under attack, when democracies is at risk. And this is what we did with the Pegasus project.
Among the 50,000 phone numbers, journalists were able to identify more than 1,000 targeted individuals in 50 countries. According to the Washington Post, these include more than 600 politicians and government officials, 85 human rights activists, and several heads of state, including French President Emmanuel Macron.
We knew that this was a very dangerous project, but very important project to work on. And we knew that this could not be possible for a small team of journalists, and that collaboration makes really sense when you get that kind of information.
The EU's inaugural prize of £17,000 is named after Maltese investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia. She was killed in a car bomb attack 4 years ago. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
The World Health Organization says its newly formed advisory group on dangerous pathogens may be the last chance to determine the origins of the CCP virus. The agency urged China to provide data from early cases. This report comes from NTD's Eddie Aitken.
Right now, this is our best chance, and it may be our last chance to understand the origins of this virus.
The World Health Organization announced the creation of a newly formed group on Wednesday that it called its last chance to determine the origins of COVID-19 and urged China to cooperate. The question of where and how the coronavirus came to be has become a highly volatile issue and a particularly touchy topic for China, where the first cases emerged in late 2019. A WHO-led team spent 4 weeks in and around Wuhan, China, earlier this year, with Chinese scientists probing the earliest known cases of the coronavirus, and said in a joint report in March that the virus had probably been transmitted from bats to humans through another animal, but further research was needed. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said that the investigation was hampered by a lack of raw data and has called for lab audits. China has repeatedly dismissed theories that the virus leaked from one of its laboratories and has said no more visits are needed, but the WHO believes otherwise.
And we very much hope that there will be further missions to China and other countries.
In an editorial in the journal Science, the WHO said that detailed investigations of the earliest known and suspected cases in China prior to December 2019 were still needed, including analysis of stored blood samples from 2019 in Wuhan. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Now to Russia. Moscow joined the ranks of the world's top gourmet destinations on Thursday, when 9 of its restaurants were awarded Michelin stars. The accolades were bestowed at a ceremony in a concert hall close to the Kremlin in recognition of a culinary renaissance 3 decades since the fall of communism. We've got more from NTD's Joanne Robson.
The Michelin Guide has awarded 9 Moscow restaurants with its stars for the first time. Two restaurants, Twins Garden and Artest, were each awarded 2 stars by the famed French Culinary Guide, and 7 others received 1 star.
Thank you, Michelin Guide, for coming to Russia and believing in all of us. Today is a historic event for the whole restaurant market. Moscow has really become one of the gastronomic capitals of the world.
Overall, 69 restaurants were selected for recommendation in the guide.
I think it's something that we were waiting in Moscow for a long time, and finally it happened, so it's very nice. I'm excited to be here.
However, no participant was awarded 3 stars, the most prestigious award. In a statement, Michelin hailed the emergence of a generation of talented Russian chefs and the quality of their ingredients, including Vladivostok, king crab, Borodinsky bread and halibut from Murmansk.
Over the past 5 years, the Moscow culinary scene has been really evolving a lot with high-quality products, many very talented chefs, very promising chefs. So today is really a unique moment for Moscow culinary landscape.
Russia is the 35th country having the Michelin Guide, and Moscow became the first city of the former Soviet Union to be awarded Michelin stars.
There are a lot of stars in Moscow, but we didn't have Michelin stars until today, so I congratulate you on this event.
Moscow's mayor says he's hopeful for the arrival of the Michelin Guide, and subsequent awards will help attract more tourists. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
And finally, marine biologists from the University of Seville, Spain, were astonished by their find earlier this month. They caught a sunfish, a huge fish that normally lives several hundred meters deep and was bigger than the biologists themselves. Recorded as over 10 feet long and almost as wide, the species is classed as vulnerable and banned from consumption in Europe. The fish, too heavy for the scales, was estimated to weigh 2,000 kilos. Having used a crane to lift it aboard, the biologists quickly took measurements, photographs, DNA samples, and returned the fish to the sea. The fish had gotten caught in tuna fishing nets off the Mediterranean coast. It all went smoothly to the relief of fishermen and scientists aboard who watched the creature swiftly vanish. That's the news for today. Have a good evening.